So it's that time again. Every once in a while, me and Sarah decide we need to go through our books and get rid of the ones that we're kind of done with. I like to try and read every single book I have before I get rid of it, because I have like FOMO, I suppose, but sometimes you can't do that. But this time, I'm going to stick to that. Sarah has a big pile of books she's unhauling. I'll show you that later. And I'll also show you the other thing that we're here for later, which is my Unhaul TBR. I've made a completely new one. I have fully plucked from my shelves my novels, not my comics, the stack of books that I haven't read that I want to read to decide if I want to keep, because I've had them on my shelf for a really long time and I haven't gotten to them yet, and it feels wasteful and I kind of just don't want to deal with it anymore. When I have to reorganize my books, there's always ones that I just don't care very much about, and I just don't want to feel that way about the books I have, so I have a really big TBR pile, and as I go through them, I'll decide if I'm going to keep them or get rid of them. Now, most of my TBR pile is actually Star Wars books. We used to live next to this, or really close to this really great used bookstore. We would bring in our books and get a ton of credit and be able to get basically anything we wanted from there, and that's gone now. I used to get a lot of Star Wars books because they were there, and I thought it was cool to have them. And because the new Star Wars movies, they started coming out with a lot more Star Wars books than usual, just huge fleets of Star Wars books from the publisher Del Rey. They would just have several a year, maybe 5 or 6 or something. There would just always be a new Star Wars book, and I think it's kind of slowed down because Star Wars is a little bit iffy right now. I have a complicated relationship with Star Wars. It used to be my favorite thing in the entire world. Then Disney bought it and it became this thing that I don't recognize anymore. And I don't want to sound like a weird incel with Star Wars, but it's just they have so much Star Wars stuff coming out and I don't keep up with it. And it's just I don't care about any of the new stuff coming out anymore. So I don't know if I want my very finite amount of book space taken up by a bunch of random Star Wars books I got because I could. So I picked out my first one. It is Catalyst by James Luceno. I don't know how to say his last name, but I picked this one first. This is obviously tied into Rogue One. Now, I hate Rogue One. I don't think that movie's very good. I think it really banks on a lot of nostalgia, just constantly reminding you of things you know. I thought the story was kind of lame, and I think that they just kind of slapped it together, and it's oh, we're just going to have a really devastating ending, so it's going to seem deep. So I never liked Rogue One, but this was at the store, and it was cheap, so I got it, and I shouldn't have done that. But if you don't know the story of Rogue One, this is a prequel to Rogue One, which is a prequel to A New Hope. So, in Rogue One, they're looking for the blueprints to the Death Star. Beginning of A New Hope, I'm explaining this because I assume everyone knows, but some people won't. So yeah, the beginning of A New Hope, they have that's what Leia's trying to get to the rebels, is the plan to the Death Star, because they want to destroy the Death Star, because the Death Star, it can blow up planets. That's not good, so they want to destroy it. And there's a little tiny flaw in the Death Star where if you can get in there with a ship, you can shoot it with a laser beam and blow up the whole thing. Now, originally, when the movie came out, it was just a flaw built into the Death Star, but they decided they needed to explain why it was there. So, the main character of Rogue One, Jyn Erso, her father is Galen Erso, and he worked for the Death Star. He worked for the Death Star for Emperor Palpatine, and he purposely put this flaw in the Death Star so that someone could find it and someone could figure out that you can just blow up the Death Star. Ooh, we love retcons here. Anyway, this is about Galen Erso, Jyn Erso's dad, and that whole kerfuffle before Rogue One. I don't think I'm going to like this, which is why I picked it first, because I think I'm going to read it and put it in the Unhaul pile, and it's a really big Unhaul pile, and it's in my room, and I want to get stuff added to it and taken care of so that we can go to half-price books and get rid of these, not only to free up space, but to hopefully get enough money in return to go to the movies again, because that's what we did last time. We brought in a ton of books and it gave us money, and we used some of that to go see Sinners, the Ryan Coogler film, and it was pretty good. So you should go see Sinners. You should not see Rogue One. Rogue One sucks, and Sinners is fun. Anyway, I'm going to start this book. I believe it's in 3 acts. And it says that like the Clone Wars are nearing an end. What I do like about the new Star Wars books, it has a very clear timeline of all the new Star Wars books that have come out and what order you should read them, which is just so deeply convenient for me, or past me who cared. Yeah, I just have like a lot of Star Wars books, and I don't know, I just look at Star Wars differently now. So I'm going to read this, and I don't really know how I'm going to update you guys. It's not necessarily going to be telling you story stuff beat for beat. I'm probably just going to be mostly talking about my feelings, and I also don't know if I'm going to finish all of these, because if I'm like 150 pages into a book and I really don't like it, I might just end it there, because the goal is to figure out if I like these enough to want to have a physical copy in my house, to eventually pack up and move to a new house and maybe another house. I just like, it's a really big hassle. So yeah, I don't know how much of these I'm going to be finishing. It feels like it's going to be more of like a kind of casual vlog where I'm getting rid of things. But I also have a pile of comic books. I'm going through my comics trying to decide how many of those I want to keep, which is going to be most of them. But I have some that I don't really care about too much, and I have a limited amount of space here. My room's really big. It's way bigger than Sarah's. And I don't necessarily feel like I'm going to have room this big when I move again with my boyfriend. I don't know when that's going to be. But we are 2 broke adults who want to start a family. So probably not going to be in a huge place when we move here in the next year or so. So, you know, I want to make sure what I'm bringing really matters to me. So we're going to start with this Catalyst book, and I don't think at all I'm going to keep it, but we're going to see how far into it I can get before I decide for sure. I have not even stood up from the floor yet. I'm listening to the audiobook, and I'm deeply confused as to the timeline of this, because they're mentioning Count Dooku as if he's alive. And Galen Erso said that his wife is pregnant with Jin. And in Rogue One took place like right before A New Hope. Right before. Luke and Leia were, I think, 19 in that. Count Dooku was killed by Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, right around the time he became Darth Vader, which was 19 years before this, and Jyn Erso was a child. Hold on. I think this is wrong. I think this is wrong information, because this would be saying that Jyn was born around the same time Vader became Darth Vader. So then she would be the same age as Luke and Leia, which I don't think she was. I'm going to assume these Star Wars books have like a lot of editing, and perhaps it's me who's incorrect, but if Count Dooku's alive at this point when they're working on the Death Star, that means this is before Darth Vader became Darth Vader. And at the end of Revenge of the Sith, Vader and Palpatine, or Sidious, are looking out the window at the Death Star being built. So I guess that would have to mean that Sidious had it planned way before Vader even happened. I think this is some of the folly that comes with over-explaining things that didn't need, like, these really hard timelines. I don't think we needed exact dates and stuff on any of this, but you can't help but need to do that when you overwrite a world like this. When you have 500 books that take place in the Star Wars world, you need a really hard timeline. So I'm just confused. I guess Jyn is the same age as Luke and Leia, so that means her mother, Lyra, was pregnant at the exact same time as Padme was pregnant, which is possible, sure, but it's just like they've been working on this Death Star since before Darth Vader. I don't know, something about that feels off, but I have to assume they're right and I'm wrong. I just want to complain, I guess, that the end of the Clone Wars is in sight. And I didn't watch the Clone Wars show. The Clone Wars, hold on, this must really take place before Rogue One then, because it's a Rogue One prequel. So I guess this is either before Jin was born or right around then. And I guess, you know what, I could find out by reading it. So, good news and bad news. The bad news is I am DNFing Catalyst. It was really boring. I did not make it very far in. I think like an hour of the 11 hours. I just didn't care about anything going on. And because I was so early, I could tell it was really going to be a problem. It wasn't even that I just didn't like the setup. It was, I could just tell the writing was very dry. Oop. The writing was... The writing was super dry. I just wasn't getting anything out of it, and it's based on a story I don't really like, so I just thought it'd be best to DNF it because it's just, I don't know. But so I picked another one. I picked Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. So this is part of the High Republic thing. They did this huge, not really campaign, but a thing where they wanted to launch a whole new fleet of Star Wars things called High Republic. So they have like comic books, kids books, young adult, regular adult. I think they have some games that we're talking about maybe, but it was like this massive thing they did a few years ago. Just this thing that takes place, I think, 1,000 years ago. The only Jedi alive that we know is Yoda. So I think they said 1,000 years, which I don't think Yoda is supposed to be 1,000, but whatever. I don't know. But the point is the High Republic is Jedi from a really, really, really long time ago. And these are all new stories that really aren't burdened by Star Wars canon too much. So I thought it might be interesting. I picked this one first. I have the adult series too. But so here are my concerns right off. Each one's written by a different person in both trilogies. Claudia Gray, she does a lot of Star Wars stuff. I don't know if she still does, but she's pretty good. She's really good with the lore, and her stuff is typically pretty gripping. So I'm looking forward to doing this one. And then the next two in this series are written by two different people, which is not super great. But in the other trilogy, the adult one, she writes the last one. And Charles Schule writes the first one, and he has a lot of Kylo Ren stuff, so I like his writing. He did the Darth Vader comic that I like the best, so that one I might end up enjoying more. So where I didn't enjoy Catalyst, I put this on, and it's immediately a lot more interesting. It's just more gripping. It feels like more is going on with the characters. They have more personality. Like there was no personality in any of the characters in Catalyst. But I want to say about, because I have all these physically, obviously, but I really love listening to Star Wars audiobooks because they put a lot of work into it. They have music and sound effects, and it's just throughout the entire thing, and it makes the story feel so alive because it's just this constant, it's not a drama like the dramatizations they've been doing on Audible with different voice actors or anything, but the sound effects and the music, it just puts so much into it. It's just so interesting and compelling. Catalyst had it too, but not a ton, and I don't know if older Star Wars books have the sound effect things, but the new ones for sure do, all of them. So even the most boring books have that little bit of a pulse in it. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy this even though it's young adult, but it's Star Wars, so it doesn't necessarily have the same issues I do with other young adult. Might be a little toothless. I will say it's interesting. I feel like Claudia Gray's getting out some grievances here because she mentioned in the first like 10 pages of the book, she was making comments on misconceptions about things. Like she had a character be like, aren't Jedis just monks? And then she had them talk about the attachments thing because there's this thing where people are, I guess they debate a little bit on if the Jedi can have sex because like you're not supposed to make attachments, but then it doesn't necessarily explain how other Jedis get away with it. You are allowed to have sex, you just can't have attachments. And there is a difference, and she says that in here too, of like there's a difference between purity of heart and celibacy of the body, which I thought that was interesting that they talked about literally just pointing out a couple things in the first maybe 30 pages. And I feel like she just wanted to establish things that she has heard people debate about and that they got wrong. Because in the Clone Wars cartoon, Obi-Wan had a girlfriend, but he had attachments to her, so that was a problem. Obviously in the lore, Anakin is with Padme, and it's a problem because he has attachments. But I don't know if they say if the Force is genetic or random or not, because I know you can expand how you can use the Force, like you practice with it and get better. But I mean, a lot of Force users have Force using parents, and it's just like, well, either you're forming attachments or, you know, you're not, which take away what you will. But I just thought that was interesting that she would point that stuff out. I have not read the synopsis, so I don't know what the story is yet, because I never read the synopsis. I just go in blind because it's fun for me. But I'll check back in when I get a better idea of what the plot is. And I don't know if the plot is going to be like carried out through the little trilogy, because again, they're all different authors. So that would frustrate me as an author if I did the first book and had to hand it off to other people. So I'm not entirely sure how it's going to go. I actually don't even know if it's the same characters. I will let you know as I find out. So yeah, stay tuned. It's going well so far. I'm checking in again on the High Republic book. The problem is I thought, oh, I'll check in when I have something to say about it, and I'm more than halfway through and I don't have anything to say about it. So I heard the line, they're talking about indentured servitude because they found out some people are using indentured labor for things. And someone had the line, indentured servitude is not as bad as slavery, not by a long shot. And it's like, yes, it is. It's the exact same thing. It's the same thing. But okay, my problem, I also wanted to read enough to be able to give you like a synopsis of what the book is about, but I can't really describe it in my own words. So if you don't mind me cheesing it, I'm actually just gonna read it from the inside. Jedi Padawan Reith loves adventure. Reading about it, that is, not living it. Oh yeah, because he lives on Coruscant and he loves studying and just reading all about doing stuff, but he doesn't want to actually go do stuff. So he got sent on a mission that leaves Coruscant, and all he ever does is complain about wanting to be back on Coruscant. And I know it's just because we as an audience know what Coruscant is, but yeah, that's all he talks about is wanting to go back home because he just likes to be in a library reading, and he doesn't get to do that because he has to go have a trilogy of adventures. And I think he is in the other two. Not sure to what extent, because I think it does have other main characters. It says, his master, the well-respected and virtuous Jorah Molly. God, it's like they pick these names randomly, like just letters out of a hat and throwing them together. Has other plans, blah, blah. Yeah, so she sends him off. Her Padawan, Reith? Yeah, Reith must join her, whether he likes it or not. And he doesn't like it. He hates it. He wants to go back home. So Reith reluctantly boards the ship that will take him and a few other Jedi to the destination of Starlight Beacon, where Master Jorah waits for him to start their new adventurous life on the frontier. The trouble in hyperspace leaves the ship and other nearby vessels stranded, with only an eerie abandoned space station reachable for shelter, and there are secrets hidden there. Blah blah. Yeah, okay, see what I mean. The problem is nothing's happening, and that's why I had a hard time. I'm not good at articulating what things are about, so forgive my laziness here. But just like nothing's happening. I feel like it started kind of fun, and then it just stalled out. So now I don't even really know if I want to read the other two. I think I'm going to try and read at least the second one. If I run into the same issues, I'm going to just stop and not bother with the third one. But yeah, so I'm just bored, and I have like a little less than half of the book left. I can't say I recommend it to Star Wars fans. Maybe if you're like a kid, a little kid, a 12-year-old would probably find this fun if you're like 12 and really into Star Wars. But if you're an adult fan, definitely wouldn't bother. It's nothing like, they're not diving into any like philosophical things or any super fun things even. And because it's way in the past, you can't even bank on like the nostalgia stuff because they don't have any characters in it from anything you know. They mentioned Yoda once, but that's it. So I don't know if I'll check in again till I'm done. But as of right now, I would not recommend this book, and I suppose nor the trilogy. So not great news about, what is this? Into the Dark. The first one's called Into the Dark, and the second one's called Out of the Shadows, and the third one's called Midnight Horizon. So I don't love that they had like a little motif going, and then for the third one they just completely threw it out. Whatever. So my issue. I'm in chapter 18. I'm so bored. It's not badly written. I guess I just don't care what's happening, and it's making it harder to follow for me. Also, what doesn't help, and this is definitely a Claudia Gray thing with at least these books, there are so many breaks. There are so many hard cuts in a scene. Like there's no flow. And I think that's part of my issue here, is that scenes are anywhere from like a page to sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're several pages, but there's, I don't think, been a single chapter that didn't have a scene jump in it. That's ruining the flow. Most of these chapters have like 5 separate scenes in them. So how am I supposed to get invested in anything happening when everything is so choppy? And I'm not invested. And I am at the point where I'm so bored that I don't even actually, oh my God, there's a little tear in it. There's a tear in the chest jacket. Oh my God. Oh, well, I'm not keeping it, so I guess it doesn't matter. I just don't know how that happened. Anyway, yeah, so I'm so bored that I don't even want to read the other two. The thing is, they're completely different authors with mostly different characters. So I feel like not liking this one shouldn't necessarily affect me reading those other ones. I just kind of assume I'm going to be bored again. So my plan is, after I finish this, I'm going to read at least some of Out of the Shadows, and if I don't like it, I'm going to DNF it, and then I'm going to just put all 3 in the Unhaul pile. Then I'm going to move on to maybe Light of the Jedi by Charles Schul. I'm hoping I like that one because it's still the High Republic thing, but all 3 of the books are adult books, and Claudia Gray wrote one of them, so I mostly like her. I like her better when she's doing other things. Like she did the Lost Stars Star Wars book, which was about 2 people who were, it's friends to lovers, and I think one goes into the Empire and one becomes a rebellion fighter, I think. I don't remember. I didn't finish the book. It just kind of got away from me, but I liked it, and it felt like much deeper than this. Like with only 2 characters to deal with, she got into them more, so I felt like it was just better fleshed out. This one has like quite a few characters, and it keeps jumping back 25 years. So too many characters to keep track of what they're doing or who they are, and not a lot of depth put to any of them. Like one of them has like dead parents or something. I don't care. So yeah, I'm going to do Out of the Shadows, and I'm hoping Light of the Jedi is better because I like Charles Schul's writing. I liked his Darth Vader stuff and his Kylo Ren stuff. And I'm like ashamed to admit that I kind of wonder if what part of my issue here is that I don't know these characters. I have absolutely no idea who they are. They're not familiar. And obviously, they don't have to be talking about Luke Skywalker or Han Solo for me to like a book. But I guess it helps. Like, at least if the book's boring, but, you know, Luke Skywalker's in it, I'm going to be like, yay, Luke Skywalker. But, yeah, this is going poorly. I read, tonight I was also reading Hush Hush. I don't know what order these are going to come out in, but so it's been a rough reading night because that book sucked, and this one's not great. It's at least this one I can understand people liking it if they do. The Hush Hush was atrocious, but you know, I guess I'm just ranting at this point. It's like 4:30 in the morning. I should go to bed, but I'm not really tired, and I'm looking at the big stack of books I have to read, and it's very intimidating. So I just want to kind of get that as done as I can. Whoops. Turns out, boo. So yeah, I finished the Into the Dark, and it was whatever. It was so deeply whatever. So I started Out of the Shadows. I got 11% in, and I realized, God, I just don't care at all. So I DNF'd it. Picked another book though. Last Shot by Daniel Jose Older, who I have read before. I can't remember what I read from him But people, I think, like him because he puts a lot of Baby Ben Solo stuff when he writes. But yeah, so this plot is a little boring. It's basically they're looking for a MacGuffin it's split into two timelines. One is 10 years ago, one is current times, and the current times are 2 years after Return of the Jedi. So as you can see, this is Han from the Solo movie, and the inside it's Lando from the Solo movie. So a funny thing happens in this audiobook. There's 3 readers, one of which is the author, and in the past timeline, the reader is doing his best impression of, for Lando, Donald Glover, and for Han, I'm so sorry to the actor who played Han in Solo, that actor. And then in the current times, the reader is doing a really amazing but distracting Billy D. Williams impression for Lando, and then Harrison Ford for Han. So literally, we're in the same character 10 years apart, but completely different cadence and everything. And admittedly, they're very good impressions, but they're incredibly distracting. And the plot is just like a little boring because it is a MacGuffin. It's just like, oh, they got into a scramble 10 years ago about some device, and now 10 years later, Lando shows up at Han's apartment, and he's like, you got to help me with the mission. Kylo Ren, is 2 years old, so a lot of the present time stuff is actually about how Han Solo thinks he's like just a terrible father and husband. And I think it's funny because like, so Han and Leia break up. They're broken up in the new ones, which I don't like, but sure, whatever. So like every time they have something now with the two of them, they always have to, everyone feels it necessary to leave all these hints that they're not going to work out as a couple. They have like him so bored with her job, like he hates all the bureaucratic stuff. He just like rolls his eyes. He is like his job as I guess first gentleman or whatever. So he is just there, and he doesn't like that anyone calls him general. He's just like grumpy, and he likes Ben, but he doesn't know how to raise a child, I guess. So even though Ben really loves him, he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it's fine. It's perfectly serviceable. If you really like Han Solo, I would recommend it. I'm about to be done with it. This is not an accurate description. I have like a few minutes left on it, but yeah, it was fine. It was all right. And my hypothesis about not liking these as much because they don't have any references, I think I might have been halfway wrong. Because it's not the references I like, but I enjoy the characters I like. So having Han and Lando be at the forefront of this is fun. Like Lando has a girl in it that he loves, and that's cute or whatever. There's explicit sex, not explicit scenes, but it's like very clear mentions of sex many times in this book with Han and Leia and with Lando and the girl, which I find interesting because this is like an adult book. But Star Wars doesn't really touch on that kind of stuff. They never really have sex things. I remember oh my god, Mark Hamill famously said like the closest thing we'll ever get to a sex scene in Star Wars is when Kylo Ren and Rey were holding hands in Last Jedi. There was sex in one of the comic books between Poe Dameron's parents in like a prequel comic book once, and then this, like, there's a lot of Lando's inner monologue of like, I want to get her naked, stuff like that. And like, I'm very surprised that Disney let him do that, but that's cool. Go ahead. As far as the actual story, nothing special. Han hating himself a little bit, Lando loving himself a little bit, and the nostalgia stuff. I roll my eyes out a little bit because they are mentioning stuff just to mention. They mentioned Jakku for like no reason. It's just stuff like that, like little things they randomly throw in there because you know what it is and it's fun, and it's like I don't want to be too mad at it. But in conclusion, I'm actually not going to keep this, even though it has a cool reversible dust jacket. The inside, you can flip it out and it's got Lando. But I didn't like the story enough to keep it, and I feel like I should just give it to the bookstore and hopefully someone else will enjoy it. So far in this video, I have read I have in the pile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Star Wars books, 2.5 of which I read. So not great I read 2.5 and I'm getting rid of all 5. I'm not keeping any of them. So I guess good and bad, because I wanted to get rid of books. My hope is always that I'll read and love everything I buy, but that's not realistic. So it's okay. I'm not super disappointed. I will be disappointed though, because of the stuff I have over on my shelf. I have Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, which is Ben Kenobi and Qui-Gon. Way back, obviously, because Qui-Gon's dead. I really hope I like that one. I hope I like the Resistance Reborn one, which takes place between, I think, Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So I hope I like that. I kind of hope I like the Light of the Jedi, the adult High Republic trilogy. Then I have the Chuck Wendig trilogy, which I don't think I'm going to enjoy. I fear it will be pretentious. And the other 2, I have 3 books on here that are not Star Wars. Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, Stolen Air by Holly Black, and Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But the only ones I think I might end up keeping are probably Master and Apprentice and Resistance Reborn. And Resistance Reborn, a lot of it depends on if Kylo Ren's in it, to be honest. But, so I guess, yeah, I don't know if I should take this as a successful Unhaul video or a failure of a Star Wars reading vlog. I guess it could be both. I feel like I was very rambling in this, and I apologize. But thank you for indulging me. I'll be back really soon with more unhauls. So until next time.